Okay, everybody, this is a quick summation of August 23rd, 2020. Um, we're in the book of First Timothy. We're in chapter 5. We're talking about the disciplined community. Now, we've gone through a number of steps. We've talked about leadership in the church. That's what the book of First Timothy is all about. Chapter 1, the goal is to produce instruction that produces a loving community, produces loving people. The goal of our instruction is love. Why? Because Christ loved us and sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for us. Chapter 1, verse 15, it's a trustworthy saying, deserving full acceptance, that Christ came into this world to save sinners, of whom I am the foremost. And so the church always had not a holier than thou approach toward godliness, but rather a redemptive approach toward godliness, that no matter how bad you are, God can save you from that. And so the secret is focusing on Christ. It's not us that produces that kind of righteousness, it's Christ that produces it. And so we learn how to serve Christ. And in serving Christ, we learn practically how to serve one another. And in serving one another, we learn how to become second. We learn how to do two. Why? Because we put others in front of us. And because of that, we learn something amazing. An important quality to leadership is self-control. Those that want to be number one, those that have to be in charge, those that have to be up front are just trying to control their environment. They're trying to make things happen. The people that are the servant leaders, they're just concerned about their own behavior, about serving well, about being the best that they can be so that they can meet the needs of others. Now, those are the kind of leaders that the world is looking for, but has an awful hard time finding. So, this chapter 5 talks about the community that helps produce those kinds of people. And the whole key to this community is being a loving community, because perfect love pushes out sin. Okay? And so in doing so, we've learned that the disciplined community is a community that, what we're going to see, has got really strong leaders, but also has a strong coming out of the darkness, coming into the light mentality. And that's what these strong leaders produce. So where do these strong leaders come from? Well, first, they come from healthy homes, because morality begins in the home. Do not sharply rebuke an older man, but rather appeal to him as a father, to the younger man as brothers, to the older women as a mother, the younger women as sisters in all purity. I mean, what you have here is a nuclear home. You have a mom and a dad. You have brothers and you have sisters. That is the nuclear home. Okay, that is the place where morality begins. And if you don't start there, you're in trouble. Now, the church always did believe in supporting the family, and because families were what supported everything else. Families support families. And so if you had a mom and dad passed on, you took care of mom. That's the way it was. But in some cases, mom would be left alone. Now, she who is a widow indeed and has put her been left alone, has fixed her hope on God, and continues in entreaties and prayers night and day. But she who gives herself to wanton pleasure is dead even while she lives. Here is an idea of a godly mom. Remember, this is still in the context of chapter 2, where Paul really felt that we needed to support mothers who wanted to raise their own children. And because if your children don't turn out well, moms don't do well either. Moms have a tendency to focus on their kids, and they want their kids to do well. And so the church, one of the ways that they supported women in doing that is that if you raised a family, but your family somehow isn't there, maybe you didn't have any kids, or maybe all your kids moved away, the church would take you on and support you. In fact, this was kind of the job description. A widow is to be put on the list only if she's not less than 60 years old, having a reputation for good works, if she has brought up children, if she has shown hospitality to strangers, if she has washed the saints' feet, if she has assisted those in distress, and if she has devoted herself to every good work. Now, that sounds like quite a job description, and I don't know for any people that would necessarily want to apply for that. But when the church took on a widow, the church was taking on a woman who'd been doing a good job all her life of taking care of family and taking care of other people's families too as well. I remember growing up as a kid, I'm one of the last generations that was raised by mothers. Moms ran everything. Um, Moms ran the library. Uh, Moms ran Good News Club. Moms ran Vacation Bible School. Moms ran Sunday School. Moms ran Cub Scouts. Moms ran Webelos. I mean, everything I did in town as a kid, moms were running it, except for baseball. Moms didn't run baseball, but they still ran the concession stand. We wouldn't have had the concessions without moms. So moms really were the people who made sure kids were in healthy activities. And if you did anything, since there were so many moms at home, moms' eyes were everywhere. And if you did anything that you shouldn't be doing, your mom knew about it before you got home because there was another mom and they had this network. Um, it just it was an incredible place for growing up in a disciplined community, learning the difference between right and wrong and doing the right. Why? Because the moms devoted themselves to every good work. That's just what they did. And I can't help but believe that that's what Paul had in mind the whole time. Now, in doing that, these kinds of leaders, women weren't the only people that were supported by the church. The elders who rule well should be considered of double honor, especially those who work hard at preaching and teaching. Men were supported too if they gave their life to the church in such a way that they made it a practice to help the church become followers of Jesus Christ, growing in godliness and self-control, um, focusing on sin and getting rid of it so that you could focus on Christ. Um, the whole point was that is the idea of what leaders are supposed to do. Now, the charge here is those who continue in sin rebuke in the presence of all, so that the rest also will be fearful of sinning. Sounds really harsh, but remember, this is in the context of Pauline teaching, which he taught Christ's ethic. Matthew chapter 18. First, if you see someone sin, you talk to them. If they come and confess, you know what, you're right, I need to, then the two of you walk together. Okay, but if that person won't listen to you when you go talk to them in private, then you take 2 or 3 other witnesses with you, so that now there are 3 or 4 of you that are talking to him. If he refuses you, then the 3 or 4 of you bring him in front of the church. If he refuses to listen to the church, then he gets kicked out. And so there is this idea that, this is a disciplined community. And so those who continue in sin rebuke in the presence of all, so that the rest may be fearful of sinning. I solemnly charge you in the presence of God and of Christ Jesus and of his holy angels. Now this was no small thing, to maintain these principles without bias. Why? Because the sins of some men are quite evident. Now, some guys just go out there and sin and you can see it right away. Others, and that goes before them to judgment. For others, their sins follow after. In other words, they're more hidden, they're more sneaky. Okay? But the idea is likewise also, deeds that are good are quite evident. You can't cover up a good man's deeds. Even if he doesn't tell anybody, it's going to become evident in time. And those which are otherwise cannot be concealed. You can't hide your sin forever. It's the principle that's found in Numbers 32:23. Be sure your sin will find you out. And so in the midst of this disciplined community, when your sin started to find you out, somebody saw you in private. If you fought that, it's going to get more and more revealed. So the idea here is that this is a disciplined community that's doing its best to get rid of sin. And if you're going to be in a disciplined community, one of the ways that you can even work on that a little bit better is be the guy who goes, before he gets caught privately, talk to someone privately and get it out there. Why? Because you don't want to wait until you get caught. Okay. And in fact, if you do rat on yourself, your recovery will be much faster and you will do much better, because this is the way that the Christian community works. We know we're in the darkness. That's why we walk into the light. But if you don't walk into the light, you don't get godliness. And walking into the light is just coming to see Jesus Christ, focusing on him because he is light, and we live for him. So what do? Well, first of all, one of the questions that we ask ourselves is, how healthy is my home? Okay. You may have had a healthy home. You may have not have had a healthy home. Doesn't really matter. But you need to realize there that so much of our morality, so much of who we are, it's built there. It starts there. And it's important for us to recognize that too. Who knows me and still loves me? Now, this is where real sin gets stopped, because most of us are afraid that if anybody really knew me, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with me. That's why we hide in the dark. And how do you destroy that kind of hiding if you don't have people who are going to love you when they know? And so walking out in the light takes people who will know me and still love me. Some of those people, though, are not necessarily coming out of the darkness themselves. They don't condemn you for what you do because they don't want you to condemn them for what they do. So this person that knows you and loves you needs to be a person who is pursuing the light themselves. And then lastly, oh, well, that's it. Okay, there you go. We can stop. So God bless you. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you later.